So today I have the pleasure of talking to Gareth. Gareth, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yeah, my name's Gareth Cook. I'm the Managing Director of High Compliance Limited. I established High Compliance January 2018 after identifying a gap in the market with regards to risk management and health and safety. And that was my previous role with a company called CBRE. So initially we set the business up with me and a director called Steve Edkins. And we also brought in a consultant called Andy Hunt. And we set up a platform or a network of drones that could support construction companies to develop safety culture programs. We sold 2 of those programs, and in the early days, so 2018-19, we set about with a company called Allen Griffiths Contractors, and we reduced accidents on some of their sites down close to zero. We increased profits by 25% on one of their contracts, and we increased the culture that was at the time when we engaged with them. It was quite a negative culture and what you would call reactive, and we took it all the way through to an interactive culture, which is where you see a lot of value brought to projects or construction projects, where people are engaging with each other, engaging better with the control systems, telling each other when they're doing wrong, pointing out the good practices, and with that comes better quality of work, comes reduced accident rates, and of course there's massive savings involved with that as well. So that was an excellent start for us, a great platform. From there we developed the company, and we're now doing drone civil packages. We've got a range of different drones with lots of different sensors, from ground penetrating radar. We're the only company in the UK with an Ofcom license that's allowed to do those type of GPR surveys via drone.
Wow.
We've got methane surveys that are going on, and we've developed specific software that can process the data, and that's going excellent in the dairy industry and over in the landfill environments. We're also taking on carbon neutral planning and certification with our partners, Carbon Neutral Zone. We're pushing that forward into the dairy industry. We've just released our health, safety, environment, quality software program. So that's SaaS, selling software as a service. Yeah. And we're also putting in consultants in the HR environment and the health and safety environment. So we've got 4 different models there, but it's going very, very well. We've gone from a company turning over 0 to nearly 300,000 in 2 years. So it's doing very, very well. And we projected to be turning over 5 million in the next 3 years. So things are going very well for us. With that comes challenges, but and some sleepless nights. But yeah, it's going very well. Thank you.
No, amazing. What a journey you guys have been on.
Yeah, for sure. We've just every step of the way reinvested in the business, purchased new kit and equipment, brought in more specialists, and identified those gaps in the industries that we are supporting at the time, and then focused on those, on how we can streamline things, how we can make it quicker, how can we process things using technology rather than people, and really worked on not just giving comparable data, but better data in many environments. So yeah, it's been an exciting journey. And looking forward to the next 12 months.
No, amazing. Thank you. And what do you think's been, do you have a kind of a project or a product that's really made you go, that's the best we can do?
Yeah, so where we are right now, I genuinely believed that it was going to be our GPR product. I mean, most products we're doing with our drones, you've got 6,000-7,000 other businesses out there promoting that they can do these things. Some can. But there's only one doing GPR, and that's us. GPR via drone. We're the only ones with an Ofcom license. So I really thought we had something there. It's a bit of a slow burner, and it's now more support in our packages. It's because of the sort of limitations of the kit and equipment we've got, but that might come in the future. But right now, what we have got and what we're doing is delivering methane surveys into the dairy industry and working with farmers to identify or quantify the methane, which is not being done anywhere else with drones. And then we look to bring in engineering solutions to harness that methane waste, or the waste on site that generates methane, use that then to power the farm, and then the leftover energy is sold back to grid. So you're reducing greenhouse gases to the environment, helping them meet the net zero targets, and you're generating an income stream, a new income stream for the farmer. So it's win-win, and we're sort of signposting them where to go to get grants as well to build these AD plants or the different engineering solutions. So it's in the early phases. We've recently won a grant from Worcestershire County Council from the Low Carbon Opportunities Programme, and we've just applied to Beta Den, and we're applying to Innovate UK in November this year. So quite exciting, and I see that's going to really take off for us, pardon the pun.
No, exactly. No, it's amazing. And in today's, when everyone's very aware of dairy farms and the cost and kind of squeezing that every penny out of it, that's just a brilliant success story. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no worries.
So you said at the beginning that you started just before COVID. So was there anything that you had considered before, but then COVID made it a necessity for the business?
Well, I think the drone business it's new, really. It's really taken off in America. People are fast catching on in the UK, and we're being pushed out in many respects by companies starting to do things internally, which is fine. We've always knew that would happen. So, for example, your topographical surveys, companies now are doing those in-house. We used to have 30-40% of our business doing those. That's no longer the case. But we developed software that could live stream data. So when we were on civil engineering sites, we could live stream bridge bearing inspections, traffic management inspections, and we see no uptake of it at all. So we sort of parked that idea. Come COVID, everyone was asking for it. Everyone was sat at home. They wanted to see updates on their sites. They wanted to know what was going on. They needed to make decisions so they could sort of start managing and planning for contractors to come in 6 months' time. So they needed to see specific parts of the site, so we could enable that process for them by live streaming. We didn't outsource any of it, developed it all in-house, and that worked really well for us. So we did well out of that product, but due to the other work we lost through it, and I'm talking 90% of work we lost through COVID, but the live streaming kept us going. So yeah, it was. I'm glad we developed that prior to COVID. We were good to go.
Yeah, no, perfect. What a great success story.
Yeah, for sure.
And is there anything that in that mindset and the product development, and you've clearly got the balance between regulatory and drone and software, which is such a unique skill to balance anyway. Is there anything that you've kind of developed in COVID where you're like, we've got to keep this and just grow it? Or is it all of it?
Well, I think COVID focused a lot of people's minds, time and attention. I think the easy thing for us to have done would have been chasing after contracts that we were losing or work that we were being told was stopped, but we just focused on our R&D. The money that we had in bank, we reinvested on R&D. Plenty of time out in the field. We can fly drones from where we lived up in Worcester. We were flying drones out into the fields from the back of our gardens and doing R&D. So these things weren't a limitation to us. We were working within construction, so we were seen as workers that were still allowed to travel to these sites. So that was excellent for us, and we had the relevant paperwork, etc., to do that. But the only standout for me, the only really standout product that we developed during that time, and something that we've continued to use, is the live feed. I mean, everything beforehand, all the ideas were already born. They were already sort of in the R&D phase or developed. So yeah, it's been great to utilize that live feed, but we've more embedded it now within a package. So we sell a package of drones. We say, well, you can have these different types of drones with these types of sensors that will enable your topographical work, your ground penetrating radar, your bridge bearings, your traffic management inspections, your project progress updates. Oh, and by the way, we know you've got 30% reduced staff in the offices. You can live stream all this data at the same time. So it just supports the package now rather than a standalone unit. So that's been quite interesting to see how that's developed.
No, amazing. Thank you. Okay. So what do you think has been the biggest learning for yourself since you started the business?
Internal. internal challenges. You know, ultimately, if you're going to start a business, you've got the tenacity for it. I mean, if you've not, you wouldn't start the business. I knew every challenge I was going to be facing. I knew what was going to come, and ultimately you've got to work hard to beat those challenges. But it's the internal stuff that's where the biggest challenge is. It's a tough old game, and ultimately you're at the top. You've got to make decisions, and you've got to stand by those, and some will fail. Yeah. And you've got to be able to take that, but also be able to see what's in front, see what the markets are doing. Where do you push your limited resources? How do you motivate your team? How do you lead them? How do you keep them feeling good after we've had 18 months of R&D and it's not worked, and you're convinced it's going to? Now you've got to convince the specialists in your team it is. So it's the internal challenges that have been the toughest for me. But the external, it is what it is. You'll face the challenge and you'll move it out of the way. It's the internal. You've got to keep that team solid. You've got to keep them motivated and show proper leadership every step of the way.
No, perfect. Thank you so much. And if you were sat in front of your 18-year-old version of yourself, what advice would you give?
Keep going. Keep going.
And it's such simple advice. Do you think you would have listened, or do you think you would have given up if you were talking to your 18-year-old version?
I would have listened. I was a good listener at that age. I was in the army. I listened to everything. I can assure you. Exactly. Otherwise, my sergeant would have beat me. So I listened. Yeah.
Perfect. It's a good grounding, though. It's a good kind of, where your baseline is.
Oh, absolutely. There's no two ways. It gave me some excellent values. That and the private security. That's where I've sort of learned my values, really. Learned about sort of leadership and making sure you always do the right thing, even when no one's looking. Always do the right thing, and you'll always get good outcomes. You may get failures, but ultimately you're going to get the outcomes you want as long as you keep doing the right thing. Just keep going.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's such an important message. And then the last question for today is, what inspires you today?
For what we can achieve tomorrow. That's it. I know what we can do in high compliance. I've still got people to convince, by the ways, but that is certainly my inspiration. I know what we can do tomorrow. And for example, the methane surveys that we're up to at the moment, I know that they can reduce the greenhouse gases in the environment. I know we can harness those methane emissions, renewable energy, making this planet a better place.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Gareth. That wraps up our interview. Absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing those as well. Some of those examples.
No worries.
Brilliant.